So YouTube doesn't like it when you go live early, apparently. So it says, all right. I broke YouTube. That's good stuff. I love that. All right. Update the description.
Okay. It's 40
Oh,
in
yeah.
your terms, 40 degrees
Oh, yeah.
Celsius.
40 is unbearable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely hot. My parents live in the southeast of France, near Nice, Saint-Tropez. I don't know; those are towns that French people would know, but maybe not outside of France. It's like very, very rarely under like 25 Celsius, but 40 is like those are the hottest days that they get, like 3 or 4 times a year. Yeah.
Well, that's the feels like. It feels like because of the humidity, it feels like it's 40, but it's actually, I don't know what, I'm not going to do the conversion again, but
yeah, probably around 35 Celsius.
Yeah,
It's
something.
Like, it's already pretty hot. Yeah. The human body temp in Celsius is 37.5.
There you
go. It's been very weird because we've been getting a lot of wildfire smoke from Canada because there's like 700 wildfires up in Canada right now. So it's actually been keeping our temperature like down because of all the smoke.
Oh, yeah.
I bet it smells great there, though.
Not great for people with breathing problems. Yeah. All right. We are live. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the Linux Cast live stream. We're going to do a podcast. We have Nick from the Linux Experiment joining us today. We're going to talk about Linux elitism, and we have a couple mini topics and some nuggies for you. But before we jump in and start recording, we're going to do our traditional audio check, make sure all the levels are fine. So these are me saying some words, and these are spectacular words. There have been no better words ever said. Drew, some words, please.
I'm going with the Celsius peach vibe today, and it is delightful.
See, when we record at night at our usual time, he doesn't need the energy drink. It's the middle of the day, so he has to keep himself pepped up. Nick, if you'd say some words so we can check the audio levels, please.
Well, as a nerdy French man, I can only approve the use of Celsius drinks, so that's good.
I should have went with the un-American thing there, Drew.
200 milligrams of caffeine.
I don't know. Fahrenheit just wouldn't be quite the same, vibe there, I don't think. Okay. So if you guys could let us know if Nick is a little quiet, is what they're saying. Drew is louder than Matt, but not bad.
Is this better?
Okay,
I can say a few more words. I've just raised the volume just a little bit up.
Sounds better.
Yep. War Thunder says it sounds better. And am I still quiet as well? I don't know what I would actually do to... You want to...
Make sure you're just talking into the mic. Well.
That was the best non-intentional burn there's ever been. That's great. Because that's... yeah, I get that. I know how microphones work. I've made videos before.
I've seen them. It's good.
Yeah. The thing is, I still don't talk into the microphone half the time, and I have to put the gain on so that I can remember to actually talk to myself. Okay. All right. So now that we're there and everybody says the audios are good, we're going to hit record in OBS. We're going to hit record in Audacity. Back there. So me, then Drew, then Nick will just introduce ourselves like, regular people and carry on that way. Oh, claps. Almost forgot the claps. We always spring this on our guest, Nick. We do claps to synchronize the audio. So Drew's going to lead us in a round of synchronized clapping. We always clap exactly. Yeah, we always clap exactly on time together. So we've never been off ever. So Drew,
all right,
the claps, please.
3, 2, 1.
Not our best, not our worst.
Could be worse.
Nate's somewhere around like, yeah, I'm glad I don't have to edit that. Okay. So me, then Drew, then Nick.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to Linux Cast. I'm your host, Matt.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Nick.
So, we've actually done quite a few of these now. Like it feels like kind of old hat, but we do have a guest on our podcast. Is Nick, aka the Linux Experiment. Thank you for joining us, Nick. We're gonna have a good old time today.
He's slumming. Let's just be honest. He's slumming.
Yeah. What we're doing is we are elevating our profile. Yeah, he's kind of lowered a little bit. You know, it could be worse. You know, but.
I'm super happy to be here. I always like participating in virtually everything that I get invited to. And honestly, you guys, I've been watching you for a while, so I'm happy to be here.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
I don't believe it, but okay.
I'm blushing a little bit, man. All right. Okay, so we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk about Linux elitism, and we're not gonna fight over distros because there's no good distros. That's basically the rule. But we're going to talk about other people fighting about distros, so that should also be fun. But before we jump in, we do have some mini topics. We're actually going to do a couple mini topics this week. So our first one, Drew, that you chose was the most ridiculous sponsorship. So Nick, we're asking this directly to you. What is the most ridiculous sponsorship you've ever been offered?
I think it was a gamer chair. A pink one with bunny ears on the back. They sent that one to me. They offered to send me the chair. I think it was at the end of my first year or first year and a half of doing YouTube. They were like, "Oh, it's great for your audience. It's perfect product. It's fantastic." And I clicked the link. I looked at the chair. I was like, no. What the hell is that? And then you have the usual Raid Shadow Legends and the thing that is absolutely not connected in the slightest to the content I produce. I've had lawnmowers. I think I had an automatic box in which delivery people can put your parcels, stuff like that. That just I mean, as a European, doesn't talk to me much, but I guess maybe those can be useful. They were just so disconnected from my videos that they felt weird.
So I got one. I don't do sponsors, obviously, but I do get their emails. And the weirdest one I ever had was Kentucky Fried Chicken scented deodorant.
Whoa!
Yeah. I actually put it on a mess.
Wretched idea.
Why would you want to go around smelling like KFC? Like 7 Herbs and Spices is like the ode. It's just so great.
I can go make $12 an hour and get that just naturally.
Yeah, for free. Yeah, I can smell like the Colonel for free.
And an employee discount on chickens. Yeah, that was the weirdest one I ever got. But regarding the chair, I definitely would have taken that if only to show it on stream somewhere. That would have been the greatest thing. Okay, so the other one, Drew, do you have your email?
No, but I can pimp a sponsorship right now.
No, it's got to be by, dude. It has got to be by.
Probably so. Probably so.
You put a lot of work into that. You can't abandon them now.
And to no avail.
So the next one we had. So the YouTubers are known for enthusiastic titling. What is the most outrageous title you've ever used that you felt a little bit guilty about?
There were a few. I mean, I prefer the term click-worthy.
All right, fair.
No, there were a few. There's one. Let me just check my YouTube studio. There's something. Generally, in the news video, I try to be relatively factual, but I think there was one. Well, just let me check by number of views. That's gonna bring something. Yeah, I'm leaving Firefox and this is the web browser I picked. Like the usual clickbait of, hey, I'm not gonna tell you, but if you skip to the end of the video, you'll see it immediately. Or if you just look at the chapters, you'll see it immediately. But those kind of titles, yeah, I'm not super proud of those ones. I don't do it often, but sometimes you kind of feel like, hey, I haven't done super well recently. Let's just try one of those. And it generally works, so I understand why people do it. But yeah, it's not like it never feels good to do it.
I've been accused of clickbait like almost in every video I've ever made.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I could just title a video Linux news and someone would say, oh, there was one piece of news that wasn't Linux. That was clickbait. Immediately. Yeah, first comment.
Every single time. Like
Yeah.
I think it's because so many people see it so often that they just assume that everybody, like we have to use a title somehow. I mean, are we supposed to? What are we supposed to do? I mean, you're supposed to. I mean, do you want to create a title that nobody wants to click on? Like, don't click on this video.
Yeah. And you only have 100 characters, so sometimes explaining the content of the thing is not that easy.
Yeah, I just put the description right up there. You guys don't even have to watch the video. It's fine. Yeah. So I couldn't even pick one out for me. Like, I have so many to choose from. I'm a little guilty of creating sensationalist titles. Drew, when you make videos, do you have any?
Okay, I don't know that I feel icky about it, but the fact is I did have one on the XZ security breach or problem, however you wanted to categorize it. And me not being a security expert, having that video and talking about it made me feel a little icky, even though it had, I don't know, for me, quite a few views. And so I would say that would be the one that would make me feel a little icky, but overall, I'm just doing content that tells somebody how to do something. So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Is it hard to create clickbait about Debian? I mean,
yes, because it's so saucy and see, this is an elitist. Never
mind. So while you're talking, it made me think of the one that I actually am kind of not proud of. When Linus Tech Tips was doing his the Linux challenge or whatever, and every Linux YouTuber in the history of the world made response videos. I can't stand reaction videos. They drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But I did one.
I didn't do one. I saw all the ones and I was like, I really should do one for the views, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. Same with PewDiePie. I was just no, I don't want to do this. I don't. I staring at a camera, watching somebody do something and being like, or
I think I
did a whole podcast on that.
I think I was a little better than that, but it was still like, you know what, I don't care about this topic, but I'm gonna do a video anyways because I want people to. We did a podcast on PewDiePie, but I think that was more of a discussion about the thing. I felt okay about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like literally watching someone else's video and reacting to it. Like a bunch of reaction videos are just way better than what I described. Like, so some people will actually bring some amount of context or explanations on why this problem happened or why this person misunderstood something, and that's cool. But yeah, generally I just feel that's just not the thing I want to make.
Yeah. All right. So our last little mini topic before we jump into the main one is, what is your favorite Linux app ever?
Currently, I think it's Planify, and this is the one I had saved for the end of the video as my little pick. So maybe I'll just stop talking about it and I'll keep it for the end.
Okay. Drew, what about you? Is it not Genie? I mean, I just assumed that
no, it's
Genie.
Probably Genie. I use Genie literally every day, cool. and I've done multiple videos about it. I've written scripts to install it. I've written scripts to actually modify it, and yeah, no, Genie's got to be the one.
Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit weird. Mine is Rofi. And it's just because there's so much you can do with it, and you can create scripts and just use it all over the place. And I love that thing. It's just so good. Dmenu, I suppose, would be like equal on the plan, but I just don't use it as much. So, yeah, Rofi is mine. Okay, so we're gonna jump into our main topic here. But before we do, I should mention that we do have a lug coming up this week, and I completely forgot about it until yesterday. So if you guys are interested in joining the Linux user group, we do this twice a week, or twice a week. Good Lord, never. That's not going to happen. Twice a month. The first one is an early one, which is upcoming one on Thursday. We do it at 11:15 a.m. Eastern time. We're not going to have a topic this week because, again, I forgot about what we're going to do. Is we're going to steal Linux Saloon's open mic idea and basically just talk about whatever we want to talk about. So for those of you guys in the watching live and post this, if you want to have an opportunity to join in on that, you can join the Discord or follow me on Mastodon. I always tweet out the link or whatever for that. The second one, if you can't watch the first one, which is early, we do a late one at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on the fourth Thursday of the month, every month. And I will do a better job of remembering that there's a Thursday. Then my problem was I thought this Thursday was the first Thursday when last Thursday was the first Thursday. So I got all mixed up in the time. Okay, so Linux elitism. The first question I have is it so bad? Because I think we can all fairly much agree that Linux is better than Windows and Mac. And that just saying something is better than something else has a fair amount of elitism to the phrase. So is it so astonishingly bad to be just a tad bit elitist? Nick, what do you think?
I don't think it's bad. I think it's the level of it. Linux, whether we all like it or not, it is a system for enthusiasts. Right now, it might work really well once it's set up and installed. I think most people could just use Linux instead of Windows and maybe not even notice. But it is a system that currently you have to be enthusiastic about to get. You have to download it yourself. You have to burn your USB drive. You have to install it. You have to configure stuff. You have to pick the exact elements you want to use, the distro, the desktop, whatever, the tiling window manager. So I think it is inherently sort of elitist because it is for enthusiasts. And I don't think that's bad per se. And just saying that Linux is better than other things, I don't think it's bad if it's backed up by straight up facts, which I think we all agree here that the facts are there in a lot of use cases, at least. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's bad when it becomes gatekeepy, like when you say you're not good enough to use Linux, you haven't done your research enough, you don't know enough, you don't use the right version. That's when it becomes like really annoying and stupid. But I think just being a little bit elitist is not terrible.
Drew?
Yeah, I think Nick hit on a lot of the things. It's a pride thing, really. It's about being proud of what you're using and feeling like you're doing the right thing. I know that when I made the transition from Windows to Linux, I had a great sense of pride in that, knowing that I accomplished something, number one, and that I felt like this is a better use for the really crappy hardware that I have. And it worked out really stinking well. And not to mention, you don't want to necessarily feed the beast. You want to starve the beast sometimes. And this is the case where I felt like, as a community driven, with community driven distros, it's such a impressive thing for what they do for a much larger community. So yeah, overall, I don't mind the elitist when it comes to just saying, you know what, I'm a Linux user and I am proud.
Have you guys ever met a proud Windows user, like someone who is basically a Linux user, but a Linux fan, but is in fact a Windows fan who's like out there saying, I use Windows, by the way? Have you ever met anybody like that before?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Not in person. I've seen a few in the comments. People who are very vocal about defending why Windows is great and why all the advantages that we perceive as Linux specific are in fact worse or done better on Windows. So I've seen a few, but I've never met in person someone saying, "Oh yeah, I use Windows. I rock, man." No.
Well, the reason why I asked was because Linux feels like, and maybe it's just because we're all entrenched in it, right? But it feels like it inspires a level of pride. I think that no other operating system really does. Like nobody ever, picks up their Android phone and says, "Yeah, I'm using Android. Go me," But if someone installs like any of the ROMs that like they're proud of the fact that they did that. Now, do you think that it's simply because it's something you have to deliberately do? Like, would Linux not have that same element of pride and elitism if we could go into Best Buy or Fry's or whatever and just buy a laptop with it on there? Because it feels to me like,
I think Nick has sponsors that do that, don't they?
Yeah, but they don't pay me to plug it now. So
that is a thing. You want to you wear their shirts after after you give them the sponsorship. That's the thing is, like, I don't know if you. Would you be as proud of using Linux if you didn't have to bypass BIOS and get into Grub and install a thing? What do you guys think? Do you think had that element of pride would exist if it was just something you could buy?
I think a lot of the pride comes from the fact that you actually accomplished something that sounds difficult at first. Like when you don't really know about operating systems, you don't know about the BIOS, you don't know really what a driver is. Like wiping your whole hard drive seems pretty crazy as a thing to do. And I think when you manage to do that and you realize, hey, it works. Like I've done something kind of impressive for what I know about computers. I think that's where the pride comes from. I think if you bought like millions of other people, if you just bought a pre-installed Linux PC in a Best Buy, not much you would feel that pride. You might feel proud because it's still a niche thing. Like just like some Mac users are like very proud because they're still like the 10% instead of being the 90%. They're like, yeah, we're still a little close-knit community and club. We're not using the same thing as everybody else is. I think you would still get that, but you would get that less than the fact that you had to install it yourself. I don't see many people being super proud of using SteamOS on the Steam Deck, for example, because they didn't really have to do anything specifically. They just bought a Steam Deck and it worked and it's fine.
That's a good point.
I was gonna say that it actually, I completely forgot. Drew, what about the installation process? Do you think, like, because installing Linux isn't actually that, difficult, but
no, it's kind of distro specific. But overall, it's gotten so much better. It's gotten so much better, even in the last 5 years. Like, it's night and day as to what what you can expect what you can expect and how difficult it is to install something. So even, you can say that there's a sense of pride in doing the installation, but there is a generation of people that go, back in my day, we had to do things in the command line, and I had to do a bunch of stuff to just, to get my browser to work, and I had to crunch it for 15 hours and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's that element, but overall, making a decision to go away from something as big as Windows, as big as Mac OS, and to try something new is sometimes scary. And knowing that you accomplished something like we were just describing is outstanding, and you should kind of like celebrate the win. I don't think a lot of people like celebrate the wins like they should. It's many times. I coached soccer for 20 years, and one of the things that I missed out on as someone who's incredibly competitive is not celebrating the successes or the wins. And you should definitely celebrate those milestones, those wins.
And I think you also tend to take pride in everything related to what you learned, because when you have to use Linux, not even just installing it, but then using it afterwards, you do have to learn a few things. You have to understand how a package manager works, or even if you just use a graphical app, you still need to wrap your brain around the concept. There's one repo of applications, but there might be other repos that you can add. And just that makes you learn a few things. You have to find new applications and realize that some of them are actually super cool and really better than what you were used to. I think it just opens your mind to a little bit more, I don't know, new things, a few more applications, more software, more notions about computing and software. And that also, I think, makes people very proud, because you actually went out of your way to learn something new instead of just using the thing that you know, that everybody else knows, and not really questioning how it works. That's, I think, a source of pride for a lot of people.
So Drew,
is that elitism, though?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, okay, so Drew was talking about, back in my day, the older generation of Linux users. That attitude still exists. It's just moved into the more difficult versions of Linux, like Gen 2 and Linux from scratch, and to an extent Nix for some reason, even though it just uses the Calamares installer. And I mean, obviously for years it was Arch Linux, because if you installed Arch Linux, you got yourself a badge because it was difficult to install. And it always felt, to me at least, one of the reasons why Arch Linux was so memeified, if you will, was because it was difficult to install and because you had to go through this process. So we've talked about what feels like the good part of being, an elitist, if you will, or having the pride of doing, Linux, installing Linux, learning how to use it. But obviously, I think we can all agree that there are many situations where it goes too far. So do you think that for lack of a better term, my distro is better than your distro crowd has a significantly, how do I phrase it? Do you think that crowd has a very negative effect on the image of Linux? Nick, what do you think?
I don't know if it's a big impact, but it does have an impact for sure. I think the first thing that you find every time you go online looking for something related to Linux, every time there's a conversation, a comment section, or whatever, you just see people telling each other that what they use is crap. It's, oh no, don't go there, don't use that, don't use this desktop, don't use this distro, you will learn nothing if you use Ubuntu, don't go to Arch, it's too complex. You will see every single thing, and I'm guilty of that kind of talk sometimes as well. I think it does detract from the image of the community, because it instantly makes it feel fragmented, maybe not necessarily always hostile, but a bit fragmented still. And no one wants to step into something that is very fragmented, because you always have the fear that you're going to make the wrong decision, that you're going to waste your time, that you're going to join the losers club, basically. Like, oh no, I picked the wrong distro for Linux. I'm now like the nerd of the Linux nerds. No one likes me anymore, and I'm not respected, and my accomplishments aren't validated by the community. If I had picked this instead, maybe I would have been with the cool kids. You always have that fear that you're going to pick the wrong thing, and seeing all that fragmentation in terms of talk and in terms of criticism, I think hurts. I'm not sure if it's a big detriment, but it does hurt.
Drew?
It's funny because there's one level of like ribbing that we kind of like, Matt and I will like interact with, and it's like, he's he'll joke about me being a Debian user. I'll joke with him about being what used to be he used to be an OpenSUSE user, now a NixOS user. And all of that is good fun. It's just like, but it's the interpretation of someone. If I felt like Matt was like challenging me and it hurt my ego because he said something weird about
Drew, your
Debian
packages are so old, dude. I mean, could you possibly have like a more recent version of Audacity, please?
Matt.
He has a hat for every occasion.
Debian users need to embrace this kind of ancient but stable type of reputation and just be okay with it. You know what I'm saying? So you know, that's
I'll let you know we have Flatpak now.
which I don't use, but okay. But overall, you know, you've got this kind of like, there's the harmful side of the gatekeep. You know, there's genuine ribbing, which is fine, but it's the interpretation sometimes that we kind of like, you know, maybe I don't take that because it's just a very personal situation where I have gone through the ringer to get Arch installed, let's say, and because, or Ubuntu, and you're a classic Ubuntu user, and people will joke about you having training wheels on all the time or something, you know, or for, you know, we've seen all of the memes and stuff like that. The truth of the matter is, I think we have to have a little bit more thick skin, but let's not be, you know, genuine assholes about it either. You know, let's just let's respect people's opinions and their choices, because Linux's greatest strength is freedom. And I know, where's the bell, Matt? You know, it's like as soon as
we do need
a bell,
like an eagle cawing, and
you know,
yeah,
the freedom to choose your computing environment, the freedom to choose your desktop environment, the freedom to like, there's that, you know, whether I know Nick is not like a tiling window manager user. I love it. And it's okay for both of us to have, you know, our own choices here, you know, but
I would never tell a tiling window manager user that they suck for using that and that they're making their life intentionally more complicated. And I don't want people to tell me that just by using KDE without many tweaks to the default setup, I suck. Like it's just what you want to use, what you like to use. And criticizing choices is dumb. It's like criticizing the color of someone's shirt. It makes no sense. It doesn't affect anyone.
So, Drew, I'm not sure if it was before you joined the podcast. I think you were here. We did a podcast. I think it was you, me, and Tyler, where we each took a distro. I think actually it might have been you, me, and Nate. Now that I think about it.
It was Nate.
Basically, where we had to take like each other's distros or whatever and had to argue for them, even though. So, the reason why I bring that up is because in the comments of that podcast, we had several people saying how uncomfortable they were, how vociferous we were about defending our choice, and they were there. A lot of people were like, they thought we were like because we were mean to each other a lot of the times, and then I mean you know, and then people took that seriously. We did the same thing with GNOME and KDE a couple of times. We had to kind of like defend the indefensible because none of us are really GNOME or KDE guys, and people were like very legitimately upset because of the stances we took on there and how aggressive we were, and that was kind of taking the whole idea of you know, tribalism and stuff, you know, to the extreme, because we weren't, I mean, really don't care. But I think where all this comes down to is we talked about pride earlier, but it's more, I don't know if you're into sports, Nick, but for people who are very much into sports, if you told me right now that the Philadelphia Eagles sucked, I would have a problem with that. But
they never mind.
Hey, you want to know what? They won the Super Bowl. Screw you, Drew. And how'd your Tampa Bay Bucks do? And how were they?
Made the playoffs. We've won 2.
Yeah, okay. Baker Mayfield sucks.
See, now we're stepping over the line, man.
I'm just saying, Linux inspires that kind of loyalty for some reason, and it's not even just. I mean, Linux in general does, like we talked about earlier, but more specific parts of it. Like people are really into Arch Linux, or really into KDE or GNOME, or really into Firefox. Actually, you know what? I don't think I've ever met someone who's really into Firefox. That explains a lot. Well, you're not going to get a hat for it, Drew. I'm just saying.
Are they offering one? Because I'll wear it.
I should. I'll make a hat later. I'll do that. Anyways, you know, for whatever reason, certain things within the community inspire this type of fanboyism. And when you're a fan of something, you want other people to be a fan of it as well. Like I want to inspire you guys to be a fan of OpenSUSE because I think OpenSUSE is great. But the problem is like everyone had first off, we're not using all the same computers. We all have different computers and hardware setups and stuff, and that means that one of the biggest things about OpenSUSE is that a lot of people can't even install it because it doesn't do well with NVIDIA. It just never has. And so the entire 2 years I was using OpenSUSE, I inspired a lot of people to try it. Like about half of those people tried to install it and couldn't because of the NVIDIA problems or various hardware problems. Usually once you get past the installation, it's fantastic, but part of people can't. But because so many people failed, they looked at me like, why do you like this thing so much? Why are you saying it's the greatest thing? Why did you buy a sticker? Because, and, basically, be a fan of this thing. And it confused a lot of people, but it also it kind of stands out to the fact that a lot of people are fans, and that leads them to fighting, because when you're a fan of something, you're a fanatic about it. And
there's this insidious form of gatekeeping, I guess. It's kind of like it masquerades as virtue. Like you had the idea that you must suffer through compiling kernels, and you must suffer wrestling with X11 configs or memorizing man pages to be a real Linux user. And you have this weird hazing ritual that says, okay, it's like you can't appreciate music unless you build your own instruments. That's kind of like what, the suffering is, and the battle scars is what is necessary for you as a new user to go through. Or otherwise you're not in the same category as me.
Yeah, you're not as good as me. Go ahead, Nick.
It is a weird thing, because if you extrapolate that, let's say, for example, for Mac, this would be like Hackintosh users saying to people who just bought a Mac that they are not real Mac users, because they haven't suffered through trying to do your DSDT file and then finding your device tree and then changing your various .plist files. So you don't know the pain. You've just bought something. You suck. I don't know why for Linux this is the stance people tend to take, because you're just as much a Linux user if you just burned an Ubuntu drive and installed that on a spare laptop as if you compiled Linux from scratch. You're still using a Linux system, a Linux kernel, and in the end, you're likely using the same apps.
It's weird too, because there's a hierarchy too. It's like, okay, I compile my software manually rather than use the package manager, which makes me better than you. I'm using command line over a GUI, which makes me better than you. And I'm using some weird distribution other than like Fedora, Ubuntu, just fill in the blank, one of the big ones. And that makes me better than you. So it's garbage. It truly is. It's, I talked about, well, I wrote this paper on Dunning-Kruger effect, basically. And it's one of those things where we think we're smarter than we actually are, to kind of like paraphrase. But overall, it's just kind of, there's certain things that just drive people crazy. I know the one thing that we have talked about on the pod before is that even if let's say you have a problem with some expert or their software's documentation, because they've written it in a way that is solely for experts, and then you say, I can't use that. Well, why can't you use that? It gets really, really like I built this thing and the documentation is there, but for new users, I think maybe that's where I have a problem with some of the people in the community, is this gatekeeping, these people that are looking for something new and then have this kind of problem going forward in trying to start their Linux journey. Look, just help them out. Just help them out, man. It only helps. It only helps the community if we actually gain market share. It's not some secret. It really isn't.
Yeah. Well, you'll find some people who dispute that, who do not want Linux to gain market share. And I think those are like the most elitist of all, because they're like, no, to see community. We don't want all these noobs asking like dumbass questions and not reading the wiki. We don't want to have the same questions asked in the forum and be forced to type RTFM thousands of times. They just want the community to be small and just for experts. And I think this is the worst kind of elitism, because you're just depriving other people of like the cool thing you like just because you think they haven't jumped through enough fiery circles to reach that goal. I think that's weird.
When it's very selfish, because
Yeah,
you don't have to, and it's very weird because you don't have to go to a forum and help someone. You can just do your thing. I mean, nobody forces you to go live on a forum to provide support. I mean, those are all volunteer positions. So it kind of gets into the whole RTFM thing going on that has been around for years, basically, where you just point towards the manual and just go forth and help yourself. And Drew, you talked about documentation, and that made me think of Qtile for some reason, because Qtile is written in Python, and most of the documentation is regarding Python. But I mean, it feels like, of course it is, and I can understand it because I know a little bit of Python. But I've talked to people who see my like Qtile setup and say, like, I want to get into Qtile, and I'd be like, well, the best window manager that has the best documentation is Qtile, so I point them towards the Qtile documentation, and they get there and like, I don't know what any of this stuff means. Like, I don't speak Python, and it's kind of the same thing with like the Suckless guys. The Suckless guys are notorious for saying we're not for noobs. You know what I mean? We're absolutely not for noobs. It's like says on their websites, if you're a new user, go other places.
Move on.
Like, this is not for you, and they're not particularly nice about it. And if you were to, I mean, I don't know anybody who's actually ever talked to a Suckless developer, because I don't know that they're like online anywhere. So it's like they're kind of like they got their own community or whatever. But if you were to talk to one of those guys, and ask them how to patch, like add a patch, like they'd tell you like, what's wrong with you? Get out of my face, So there are segments of the community that are very much insular, right? They very much enjoy the fact that they are different than everybody else. So, the Suckless guys, I don't know if there's a bunch of people who are celebrating Linux from scratch. I've only met like 3 people ever who have ever actually done it. But Gentoo has some of those people. Arch, obviously, for a long time, although that with the introduction of Arch install, a lot of that has gone by the wayside because it's now no longer hard to install. The new community that seems to have think way too highly of themselves is NixOS, right? Because they and as someone who is now using NixOS and is on a challenge for NixOS for the next 2 years, I have to say, slow your roll, guys. It's literally fine. It's not the best thing ever, but for whatever reason, we go through this thing, whether it's window managers, certain distributions, certain desktop environments where the community, for whatever reason, thinks they're just, the best thing ever. And I think that the problem with that is that when you're a new Linux user coming in and you see that, like Nick said earlier, you think that if you choose differently, you're choosing wrongly. And I mean, I don't know that there's any decision or choice in, that you'd make that is wrong. Like that's the problem. Is like people will say you're making the wrong choice, but it's not an actual wrong choice. But you're still going to be ridiculed and shamed because you chose Ubuntu or
learning is learning. Though
you could make the wrong choice for you. If I'm a new user and I don't know anything about Linux and I choose to go with Linux from scratch, yes, I made the wrong choice, but it's not the wrong choice because it's bad. It's because I don't yet have reached the skill level or the appetite for it that I need to go through this. So it could be a wrong choice, but it's not wrong because it's like using something that sucks. It's wrong because it's not for you, for your use case, what you're looking for. And I think at some point, having some projects that are like yes, we don't cater to newcomers. We don't care. We are a project made for people who really know what they're doing. We don't want to spend the time explaining to newcomers. If it's clearly written and if it's clearly marketed as such, I don't really have a problem. The problem comes from the people who did go through all those hoops and then think themselves superior to others because they did all that process. And I'm like, yeah, I'm better than you because I did that and you didn't, but you can't do it because I'm not going to tell you how. That's the problem I have with these sort of communities. But the fact that they are not suited to everyone, I think it's fine. It's not, if it's clearly labeled as such, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. All right, so I have this question for you guys. How do you think YouTubers play a role in spreading elitism? Because if you are a new user, one of the first things you're going to do is head over to Google and you're going to search for whatever, you know, that you're trying to find. And because of the way Google does their things, they're going to put a lot of videos right up there at the top. And, you know, like I've seen, Nick, I've seen your videos up at the top. I've seen mine, you know, Drew, I'm not actually sure that I've actually ever seen one of yours
fine.
before.
That's fine. I don't.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know I'm not in the same category as you. You know,
that's not where I was going. I was going to say I've never searched for Debian before because why would I want to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Wow.
I'm better than
I
you.
take umbrage to that.
Anyways, the point I was trying to make is like, you know, they're going to see YouTubers at the front, and that's going to be their introduction to YouTubers. And you watch a Nick video, then you're going to go find DistroTube, and you're going to find Brody and stuff, and you're going to go into this kind of rabbit hole. How do you think that we as YouTubers spread? You know, do you think we have a negative effect, or do we think we spread elitism because I show my sticker off all the time?
I think for most of us, it's unintentional. Like, we're going to talk about something we're excited about. We're going to make the usual meme or joke because we're talking to our usual community. So I'm going to rib a little bit on Arch, or I'm going to, like, I don't know, slightly mock someone who elects to go with Debian or whatever. And some people that don't know the context, that haven't watched previous videos or just aren't part of the Linux community yet, they will interpret that as, oh, everyone's mocking Arch, or, oh, everyone's saying that Debian is old. And they might take that as a fact. And that might not have been the intention, because mostly you talk to your subscribers first when you make videos, and your subscribers, generally, they know that this is a joke. They have some amount of contact with your personality, with your jokes, with your preferences, so they know how to interpret that. But a newcomer that comes towards that video might think that this is just, oh, well, does that mean that this is bad? But I think in most cases, it is unintentional. Some people probably also make videos saying, this is crap, don't use this. But I think most people just talk about what they like, and other people infer that since they don't talk about something else, that it must mean it's bad.
I got a question then, Nick, because I mean, you garner like a lot of views. So do you actually feel like there are certain or have you faced criticism from like traditional Linux users for making things like simple for other people to understand? I mean, I know that English isn't your first language, so I think that you use like really understandable ways to describe something. And
yeah,
and
that's what side effect of me sucking at English. I make simple phrases.
Well, that's yeah, but at least I can understand it. I mean, I understand it when it comes to most of the content on your channel. So, but do you get like pushback from those like elitists that say, you know, hey, you're making this too accessible, or
I don't know that anyone ever said I was making this too accessible, but
okay.
In the early days of the channel, when I was saying, hey, we should maybe look at this or that if we want to increase the amount of users we have, I had people saying, we don't want more users. Why do we want more users? We don't want to become the Windows of the computing world. If we have more users, then we have more money. And if we have money, then we have evil companies and software, and then it's all bad, and then it all destroys Linux. So I had these types of comments, and they still appear from time to time. And then I have, of course, people saying, why do you keep saying start with Ubuntu or start with Fedora? People should start with Arch or with whatever. And you're not helping anyone, giving them the baby version of Linux. But I don't think I've been really attacked for making things accessible. I think most people would think it is a good thing.
I know that, let's put it this way. I know that Linus took a big hit when he did his like Linux challenge. You know, people were not kind.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the he did it wrong response, you know, traditional users would just go nuts. And but the one thing that I respect is he made a mistake, and I think that he's not alone. You know?
Yeah, and he showed that mistake. He didn't try to hide it to look smart or, oh, look, I figured it out. It was super easy. Like, he had a problem and he showed the problem and he said, I couldn't fix it myself. Now, I also do think that he did that challenge with a hand tied behind his back, because he said he did not want help from his team who might know Linux, which is fine. But it also seems like he did not really do any research, like not even trying to fix the problems. Or I remember at one point he was trying to extract an archive and he got stuck on using the archive manager for KDE because you couldn't drag the file, and so he didn't understand how it worked. And I'm like, that's a bit far-fetched. There's a giant extract button here. Like, you could also just right-click the archive just like on Windows, or you could just Google it for a second. So I think some things were intentionally overplayed. Probably. Like, oh, look at how complex this is. But I think generally the challenge wasn't a terrible one. He made mistakes that people could have made. And it's just a coincidence that he happened to try and use Pop! OS at the time where they uploaded a faulty package for, I think it was Steam or something. There was a dependency conflict that wiped his entire desktop environment. But it happened, and some other people had the same issue. So bad luck, I guess.
What do we expect from Pop! OS? And yeah, Nate, I see you over there in the chat, dude. I said that exactly for that. So, all right. So a couple things. I think that it would have been more interesting for Linus to do his challenge like a year later, because he was very much on the early days of Steam OS. I don't know that the Steam, I think the Steam Deck had just like been announced or something. I don't even think it was out. And the Steam Deck when it first came out was kind of like buggy. It wasn't very, in terms of, you know, like well thought out. It wasn't very well fleshed out, and there was a lot of bugs. If he'd done it a year later, I have a feeling that his experience would have been a lot better. Now, you know, some of the stuff would have still been there, the extract stuff, but I don't know that he would have had such a hard time in terms of gaming and stuff, because we moved really fast there for a while after the Steam Deck first came out. So I think that's one thing that, and he has revisited Linux like since then, but it was less of a noob and more of a, you know, well, like researched and scripted kind of thing.
Yeah. It was I'm discovering something. It was like, hey, look, you can game on Linux now. Here's how you do it.
Yeah. So I think that a year later would have been much more interesting and probably more beneficial for the Linux community. But that whole challenge thing was very interesting, because we talked about the reaction videos earlier, and some of them were fine. Some of them, like mine, were blatantly only done because they wanted the views. I'll really admit it. But
I almost did it too, man.
It's like seeing a big stack of dollars just there, and you're not supposed to touch them, but
like, no.
the entire movie, the Willy Wonka, where you're just not supposed to do anything bad in the chocolate factory. That, like, I'm definitely, you know, one of those kids who did, you know, got carted away by the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah. You can see your mouse cursor dragging in your face like that onto the thumbnail. Like, no, don't do it. No,
you gotta have your mouth wide open, like, oh yeah.
Don't do it.
I'm so glad I don't put my face on the thumbnails. So I think that entire situation was very interesting and kind of revealing in some aspects, because some of the reaction videos were like, oh, well, if you did this and this and this, and they were kind of helpful. Some of them were very scornful, like, you know, you did this wrong. Like, how, you know, when he made that Pop! OS mistake, like he didn't, like it said right there, like, are you sure you want to do this or whatever, and it's going to do all this stuff. And if he actually read it, he probably wouldn't have made the mistake. And some of the YouTubers who made reaction videos, like, well, if you freaking read the terminal, you know, you wouldn't have made the mistake. And it was very scornful. So I think that was very revealing in terms of that. And it's, the thing is, like, it's still going on. I made a video not too long ago about these reaction video to reaction videos, but it seems now, especially after the PewDiePie thing, like the big thing is for YouTube, regular YouTubers, not us, but regular YouTubers, to switch to Linux. And every time that happens, there's a wide swath of reaction videos to these things. And some of them are fine. Like, I'm never going to get, I don't, like I said, I don't like reaction videos all that much at all. But some of them are like, you know, they're constructive. Some of them are like just downright mean to these people, like when they make a mistake or when they make a choice that the YouTuber doesn't agree with. And I think that that's where the real, like, the problem with the YouTuber Linux community or whatever comes in. And I think the vast majority of us are fine, but there's just there's an incentive on YouTube to be reactionary and aggressive and like over the top, right? And
if it's very simple, you make a video about something, you say this is terrible, you're gonna get like, I don't know, 10 times the view than if you say I discovered this and it's great. No one wants to see the great thing. They just want to see you bash on something else, like, or at least a lot of people do. And it's generally just going to drive a lot more engagement, more comments, more likes, or even more dislikes, which also count as engagement. When you dislike a video, you're helping it grow to a certain point. So it's just, yeah, it's the YouTube game. And so some people just want to play it to the maximum. So thumbnails, titles, and also reacting like mean, in a mean way to some other people.
Poor
and I think there's also that yeah. Well, I think this one was deserved, but no, there's also the pride thing. Like, somebody is using your thing and they're saying it's not as good as you're saying it is. And so you feel attacked. Like, oh, he picked my system and he's saying it's not ready. Like, I've been using it for 3 years. It is absolutely ready. Shut up. And I think there's a bit of that as well.
Well, and when you see someone who's switching to Linux make a mistake, you know you could fix if they just, you know, asked somebody, you know, and why didn't you go to a forums, or why didn't you go to a Discord or something and ask the question? Because that problem is solvable. And I mean, some of it is that switching to Linux has become somewhat of a way to get some views because of the PewDiePie thing, right? You know, so it's become a way to, like Jay's 2 cents did it. I'm not saying he did it for the views, but I mean, he switched to Linux and it got himself a lot of views, and a lot of other YouTubers are doing that. But some of it is that, you know, they make these videos and they're just doing it that one time, right? You know, like I switched to Linux for 3 days. Like, okay, what did you learn in 3 days? Like, that's not a lot of effort. So then, I mean, then there's some people like, I switched for a month, and then, like, that's okay. But then you didn't do anything during that month. Like, you went completely solo and ignored the fact that there's this gigantic community out there that you could go talk to. Now, that Linux community has prickles and thorns and assholes in it, but there's a lot of good people there too that would help you, but you ignored that, and then you didn't have a good time, and therefore at the end of it you said Linux sucks, I'm moving back to Windows, you know. And I think that some of the reaction videos to those types of that type of content is somewhat well deserved in that, you know, if you're going to make a video about switching to Linux and you don't put enough effort into it, you know, maybe you deserve a little bit of a slap on the wrist. But then there's the reaction videos where people did put a good effort into it and they still didn't have a good time because they couldn't get DaVinci Resolve to install, you know.
Yeah, it is a pain in the butt.
Make a flat pack for the look. Sorry.
Yes.
Why can't we just make a flat pack and resolve it and solve so many problems?
Well, there's DaVinci Box, which sort of works, but it's still easier than the normal .run installer. But yeah, it's still a pain. But I can understand both viewpoints. Like, someone making the video saying, hey, you know what? Everybody's switching to Linux. I'm going to give it a shot. You install it. You're like, oh, it doesn't run what I want, but it was fun. Cool. And then they just leave it at that. I think it's fine. It doesn't deserve to be harassed about this. But also, like, sometimes you say, did you try and Google it just once? Because literally, if I type your problem the way you described it just now, the first result is how to solve that, and it's literally a checkbox. Because sometimes it feels like those people just didn't really try it, or maybe the person writing the script for them didn't really try it. Because there's also, for some big YouTubers, it's also sometimes not them doing the thing. It's their team writing it, and they're just facing the camera, but they never actually touched Linux until they're recording them touching the Linux system. There's also an element of that in some cases.
It's like we can't get through a podcast without me saying something about AI, because, you know, a lot of times, some, you know, if you're a newer user, sometimes you can go to one of these models and type it in, and you're actually going to get a better result than going to Google, because Google is kind of weighting these 8-year-old posts on you know, Foronics or somewhere else, or Reddit, or
but it has a lot of traffic. Because it's 8 years old.
I think the oldest one I've been sent to was like 1999. And
respectable.
Like, first off, kudos to Ask Ubuntu for still having their archives from like 1999. Like, I can barely keep a website up for a year without losing everything, and then they still have stuff up there from the. I don't think it was of Ask Ubuntu, but it was something. Maybe it was the Debian forums actually. It was like, still have that stuff up there. That's very impressive. But also, you're right. Google does the SEO thing. They're gonna put that stuff that's been there for like, oh, this thing has been getting traffic for years. Obviously, it's the right answer. I don't know that. I mean, sometimes AI. The problem for granted, we just did AI last week, but the problem with a new user going to AI is like AI does give the wrong answer sometimes, right? Yeah. And they won't know it's the wrong answer without trying it. Now, as long as it doesn't give them RMRF, no preserve root, it's probably going to be fine. But that'd actually be a hilarious AI bot to write.
You just gave me my new business model.
You go in there, ask, how do I CD into a directory? And it says rm-rf/directory. Like, okay, that'd be horrendous. Don't do that. Oh, that's not what I actually meant to say. It's just, I think that the support thing. I mean, maybe we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the support. A lot of the times, the genuine elitism comes through in like Linux forums. Like when you go to the Arch forums or whatever and ask a question about Manjaro, you're gonna get a lot of shit, because first off, it's not not Arch, but they're gonna laugh you out of the room and literally tell you to go somewhere else. Now, maybe fair game, because you were using one distro and went to another distro's forum to ask a question, but there's still this sense that the Arch guys just really hate Manjaro, and usually when they send you packing, they're not very nice about it, and they tell you, well, you shouldn't use it, you shouldn't use Manjaro first of all, or whatever. And if you do spend a lot of time on forums or in Discord or whatever, you're going to come across a lot of people who are very, very narrow in their view of what deserves support. And if you're a brand new user, you're going to need the more wider version of support than what a lot of Linux users are willing to give, and that leads to a very weird sense, or a very poor sense of the Linux community as a whole, because we're all painted with that brush, right? Even though, I mean, I think we can all agree that the Linux community is one of the best things about being in Linux, because it's amazing. There's so many great people. We've all made friends. We've all had these great discussions on Discord and forums and on Mastodon or whatever, and that's great. But then you have the RTFM guys, and you have the people who are like, well, why are you using this? Yada, yada, yada. You should be using this instead, or you're using it wrong, or whatever it is. And when a new user encounters that, like, well, all people are like that, and it's a horrible thing. And there's, I guess the last question I have to ask you guys before we move on to the nuggies is because we've talked about both good elitism and bad elitism. How do you think we can go about toning down the people who are the negative aspects, the people who tell the idiots who say Linux Mint is a useless distro, shall we say. How do we tone that kind of rhetoric down and try to rehabilitate the image just a little bit? Nick?
The easy answer that a lot of people are not going to like is moderation. Like if you run a forum and someone greets a newcomer by "you're using something wrong, you should uninstall this and go back to Windows," this person should maybe not be allowed to answer questions in that forum. But also that takes away like the ability for someone to talk. So I know some people are very sensitive about that. Honestly, apart from that, it all comes from education as well, but it's like not necessarily Linux education. It's just education as a person, like how you've been taught to interact with other people and how you express your opinions and views, and learning to differentiate what is an opinion and what is a fact. I think it's a very complicated thing, and I don't think it even can be solved by the Linux community themselves. It's just like teaching people not to be assholes, which is difficult to do.
And seems like something their parents should have taught them somewhere along the line, right?
I mean, I'm a French person. I know everything about being very disrespectful and mean. So I lived in Paris for 8 years. They were mean to me, and I'm French.
That's great. Drew, what about you? What do you think that can be done about this problem?
To Nick's point, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, in that we have to have an understanding for other people. And like we talked very briefly about the gatekeeping for newer users. Okay. Understand something, gatekeepers. Okay. New users are basically struggling. A newcomer is tomorrow's contributor. Okay. More users will break up monopolies, force innovation, prevent stagnation, and create kind of like the diversity needed for Linux to stay relevant. I'm going to be 60 this year, fellas, and there is a group of people that in the Linux community that are kind of aging out, and we need those new users to keep it viable. I mean, Linus can't do it all.
He's going to retire eventually, man.
He can't do it all forever, so we need these new users to come in and be basically the next generation. And for us to kind of like poo-poo on their new experience is just stupid. It's just stupid.
Self-defeating.
Let's get them on board so that we have a viable community for the next decade or 2 or 3 or more.
It's the usual rite of passage thing. I've done med school. I've done 2 years of med school when I was a student. And like your first year, once you pass, you get thrown into a sort of party, which is basically just humiliating. Like, you're the new guy, we're going to humiliate you. I don't know what the term in English is for that. Hazing. And just because you've been hazed, then you're going to haze the new guy after that, and after that, and after that. But I think the easy thing is, remember how you felt when you tried to use Linux and some people just threw you out the door telling you sucked, you don't understand anything, you don't have the skills, you just don't understand, you shouldn't even be here. And just let's not replicate that with newcomers. Maybe give them a better welcome than what you've gotten. And I think everything will be fine after that.
So, unfortunately, my answer is going to be the old man answer, which is, I think we have to have less distros. I think that the part of the reason why we have so many now, this is an impossible answer. It's like it's never ever going to happen. The nature of open source is that everybody can do whatever they want, and that's one of the great things about open source. But it's also the worst thing, because by having so many teams, shall we say, like every distro is a team, you enable too many fanboys, and because everybody can go do whatever they want and grab, they can go use Dev1, and because they hate systemd, they can become a fan of Dev1 and become so anti kind of in an extremist way anti-system D, that they then propagate out into the world and say bad things about it. Now, you can say many things. There's nothing wrong with going out and saying, system D is bloated, but you can't say horrible things about the people who use System D, because the vast majority of us do. You know what I mean? And every new user probably does. So I think if we pared it down a little bit, I think that it would tone some of that stuff down. Now, like I said, it's an impossible answer. It's never going to happen. But by having more of a cohesive ecosystem where, like if more people, like if more, maybe a better answer would be to say maybe some more of us, influencers, maybe the people who have names. It's so stupid, the fact that I think that I'm one of these people, but maybe more people who have a name in the Linux community should use Ubuntu, and be Ubuntu fans. Like, if we made it okay for experts, quote unquote experts, to use Linux Mint or Pop OS or Ubuntu, it would also then be okay for new users to do that. I mean, it's okay anyways, but by having, famous people do it, it then becomes more normalized. Whereas the problem is, like, a lot of the names in the Linux community are like, Ubuntu sucks, Debian is old, Linux Mint is useless, OpenSUSE is the best distro, you should use that. By having douchebags like me who shows a sticker off 7 times in the same podcast, I think it causes people to have a severe sense that something's not quite right with the community. And I don't think that that's true, but it does come across that way. And I think the only way to really, change the landscape is for, just normal people to use the more bigger distros or whatever that are more, seen as a negative thing because they're Ubuntu or they're Linux Mint or whatever. So
I also think we've built this sort of progression. Like, you often see the progression of the Linux user, like, oh, you start with your training wheels and Linux Mint and Ubuntu, and then you progress onto something a bit trickier. So I don't know, it might be MX Linux, it might be OpenSUSE, and then you progress onto Arch, and you ascend to the holy computer, and it just, maybe it's often just a joke, but it also does reinforce the fact that yes, you have that like value scale, and when you start off with a basic distro, you're not really where you're supposed to be, or you're not the best at what you do. It's the same thing with, I don't know, like sports equipment. Like, oh, you started with your basic Nike running shoes. You have much better than that. You have much to learn. I think it reinforces that stereotype as well. But yeah, obviously the fact that we have like 10,000 choices for every single thing.
So I just got talked out of my new distro. So that thanks a lot, guys.
But I really wanted that Butter.
What the hell?
I really wanted Butter FS on Debian and make it easier to install. So yeah, we need. That distro is okay, Drew. We didn't
okay. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Drew. Did you have any more? I know you had some notes. Was there anything else in there that you wanted to cover?
Let's get her done.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last sections. So our last sections are called Nuggies, and we chose that. Or I would say it was more forced on me. I hate that name, but we call them Nuggies. And basically, these are our picks of the week. We can choose an app, we can do a trick or a tip or whatever we want to do. So Nick, your Nuggie of the week.
So I mentioned it really early on. It's called Planify. I talked about it a little bit in a previous video. I'm a big to-do list, like to-do organization dude. I like sorting all my tasks into projects with subtasks and deadlines and due dates and whatever. So this will be very boring for a lot of people, but for me, Planify is the thing I found on Linux that is just fantastic for this. Like, you can create projects. Each project has all the tasks you want with tags, with due dates, with deadlines. It has a quick window that you can summon from anywhere else, even on Wayland without global keyboard shortcuts. You can just make it appear if the window is not focused, and you can just type a task and it's added to your inbox, and then you can sort things. It's great. It looks really good. It's a like GNOME user interface style app, so some people might not enjoy it. But it's just fantastic. You can create sections inside of your projects to sort tasks even better. You can collapse everything, unfold everything. You can sync it with any CalDAV account, including Nextcloud. You can store it locally. It's just great. It's like, in my opinion, the best to-do list app that we have built with a native looking toolkit on Linux. And I just really, really enjoy it. So it's Planify, like a plan, and if I like Spotify at the end. It's just fantastic, and I just use it every single day to handle all the tasks for the channel and the company that runs the channel, because you have to declare those YouTube dollars at some point.
All 4 of them.
Yeah.
I got paid.
Revenue
once.
is so big.
Yeah, Google's really generous with all the money that they
Oh
share.
yeah. I have my Scrooge McDuck thing in the back where I just swim in all those dollars, but I can barely wash my feet in it after 8 years.
There's no diving in, right?
No, I would break my neck.
All right, Drew, your nugget of the week. Oh, wait, no, hold on a second. I know this one. I bet it's Debian.
Let's talk about Debian, Matt, because on Saturday, so we're recording Tuesday, August 5th. On Saturday, August 9th, Debian Trixie, Debian 13 will be out. And it has been over 2 years. In fact, I think it was June of 2023 when Debian 12 Bookworm came out. So we're more than 2 years into Debian Bookworm stable. This represents a foundational update that will impact millions of systems worldwide for the next 2 years. But every time, let me just say, not old, just stable.
And it won't even be old. It won't be old for a little while. It'll be new again.
No, it's bleeding edge.
You're gonna need a new hat. You're gonna need a new hat. I am gonna say this, and I say this with all the friendship and kindness that I can. I'm gonna be so happy once it's out, so I can stop hearing about it. I'm pretty sure that last week's pick of the week for Drew was also.
It was 10 days. It was 10 days. Now it's 3 days.
I'm surprised he doesn't on like his desktop or whatever have one of those like giant like ticker tock clocks that are just counting down to the seconds.
Next week, Matt, it will be Debian 13 released for the last 3 days.
I'm so glad we're off next week. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually reuse one. So I'm pretty sure I did this once, but I'm kind of back into it. So, Nick, I know you're not into window managers, but I am. I love my window managers. And one of the things I've kind of gotten away from is actually ricing or theming or whatever they want to call it. And I have gotten back into it the last few days or like the last couple of weeks or whatever. And Pywall is a tool that you can install that allows you to theme your system based on the colors of your wallpaper. And like KD, I think KD has something like this too. But for window manager users, Pywall is a thing. The problem is Pywall has been abandoned and it hasn't been maintained in a couple of years. But someone forked it because open source is awesome, and they created Pywall 16. And this basically takes Pywall, instead of having the 8 colors, it runs it to 16 colors, and is obviously still maintained, and it just works really, really well. Now it is not. It's not hard to set up. It's just more you have to do a lot of the legwork afterward, because really it's just generating the colors, and then you can choose, how to use those colors. You got to plug them into your configuration files and stuff like that. So if you are the type of person who likes to make your system pretty, and you're using a window manager, Pywall 16 is awesome, and it's so good. Now, people who do this kind of stuff will tell you that there are other options like Hellwall and Mutagen and a whole bunch of, and I know that a lot of people who are in NixOS use Stylix, because Stylix will allow you to theme everything, like all of your GTK and QT applications, all of it. Problem with that is you need to use Home Manager, and Home Manager is not something I have any interest in using, because you have to rebuild your system every time you want to make a change, and I just have no interest in doing that. So There are other tools if you don't want to use Pywell 16, but for me, I think that's fantastic. Okay, so Nick, why don't you say a few words about where we can find you and all of your places on the internet that you want to share?
Yeah, so the channel is called the Linux Experiment. It's on YouTube and also on PeerTube on the instance called tilvids.com, tilvids.com. You can find me on Mastodon at the Linux EXP, and that's about it.
Okay, definitely head on over. I mean, it would astonish me if there's anybody watching this who hasn't subscribed to your channel. But if you haven't subscribed to Nick, go over there, check him out. Like, if you
might have unsubscribed already.
Well, no. Here's the thing: go unsubscribe
That's
and
on
then
me,
subscribe
dude.
again. That's definitely what you should do. No. You'd probably break YouTube if you did that. But anyways, definitely go subscribe to him, especially if you need Linux news. Like, there's very few Linux YouTubers that do news, and we've like had both of them on. Like, Brody was a couple weeks ago, and now we've had Nick. And these are like you guys should actually should get together and do like a news like anchor. You guys can make anchors. And a TV
yeah, and he does the everyday stuff. Like, he picks one generally technical topic and talks about that one, and I tend to do like more weekly recaps.
The bigger stories, yeah. Anyway, so if you like the news and other like distro releases and all that kind of stuff, Nick does a fantastic job over there. Go ahead and hit him up over there. Drew is also on the YouTubes. He does streaming and stuff now because he's a Gen Zer. I mean, he's reliving his youth. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to be so disappointed in Just the Guy Linux if there's not a stream or a video or something on Trixie when it comes out. Like
oh. That'll happen.
Like, you should actually stream all Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, you just have like a release party. Like, and you have to wear a hat. But anyways, he's Just a Guy Linux on YouTube. Head over there. Make sure you subscribe to him as well. I'm obviously the Linux Cast. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button because I'm a YouTuber and I have to say that. Actually, sometimes on Jitsi, if you hold your thumbs up, it'll actually do the whole thumbs up thing.
Oh yeah, it highlights the thing.
Yeah. I don't think I have that. I don't think I have all the technology for that, but anyways, if you want, make sure you subscribe to all that kind of stuff. We do record this live every Tuesday. Now, this is a really weird time for us because Nick is in France and they have, time zones and all these things. But normally we record this live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to join us live, you can go to the Linux Cast, watch us there. Or we do release the audio version on Saturdays. So if you want to just listen through your ears and a more edited version, you can go over there and on your favorite podcatcher and find the audio version of the podcast. So if you're on Apple Podcasts and you could be so kind as to leave us a review, be really appreciative. It would really help the channel and the podcast. So there you go. Any other contact information, I believe you can find it on the linuxcast.org/contact is where you find all the other stuff. So thank you so very much for joining us, Nick. We really do appreciate it. We had a fantastic time. And for the rest of you guys who are watching, we'll see you next time.